Hi there is welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for being here and a happy Easter to you all. So in my previous tutorial I showed you how to make a beautiful jumpsuit, but it was looking so corporate that I decided to create a simple jumpsuit for myself and for you guys out there to see. So I'm going to use the pattern I used for creating this palazzo pants. If you've not watched these tutorials that I'm showing you right here, I'll put the links on the description box below so you get your pattern for the palazzo pants ready, because we are going to be using it for this tutorial as well. So today I'm going to show you how to create this simple casual looking palazzo jumpsuit. This jumpsuit is so very comfortable and is very light on the skin, and I think I'll wear this to just about anywhere. And I'm going to keep this tutorial very simple and basic so that beginners can follow as well. So if you want to know how to sew this jumpsuit from scratch to the end, make sure you watch to the end. So you'll be needing your basic bodies for this, and we're going to be starting off with the front piece. Right here I'm working with the basic bodies that has a v-neck of 6 inches depth, and I'm going to be adjusting this later on. So the first thing you need to do is to measure out your waistline plus seam allowance minus this dart allowance. So once you are done marking it out, you're going to place your basic bodies on the grain line like this. And what you're going to do next is to measure down from your shoulder line right here down to 1 inch above your under bust line, and you're going to mark this line. Mine is about 12 inches. So from here I'm just going to measure down 1 inch further down to deepen the neckline to 7 inches. So once I'm done doing that, the next thing I'm going to do right here is to mark my basic pattern on this block, on this paper like so, and I'm going to trace my neckline connecting it to this area. So once you're done marking this like so, you're going to cut this out, and you're going to use this to cut out your fabric for your front bodies. This I've done already, and one important thing you have to do is to notch the mid part of your center front. It's going to help you when you're matching your fabrics later. So here I've cut out the interface for the neckline like so. So you're just going to place your neckline on a piece of fabric and cut yours out as well. And you're going to be needing 2 pieces of this for the 2 parts for your basic front bodies. So here for the back piece, you're just going to use the same pattern like so, and you're just going to make the neckline higher than that of the front, and then you add your zip allowance. So the next thing I did also was to go ahead and mark and cut my interface for the back piece. Then we're going to go ahead now to cut the waistband, and I'm going to use this to describe to you how to do that. So what you're going to do is to mark 3 inches up here. The next thing you're going to do after this is to mark in your waist measurement minus that allowance right here. When you're done doing that, you're going to go ahead and indicate the mid part of your waist measurement, and then you mark ½ inch above each of these lines. And when you're done doing that, the next thing you're going to do here is to connect these lines here. You're going to trace this to the mid part and trace this also to the midpoint you indicated earlier on. And once you're done doing that, you're going to add your side seam allowance and cut it out for your center front. Then for the back piece, the only difference here is that you're going to add your zip allowance and then cut this out. Then you're going to use it to cut out your waistband for your jumpsuit. Then that is done. Next, we're going to be working on the sleeves, and I'm going to be using a basic sleeves right here, long sleeves here, and I'm going to be making some few adjustments to these sleeves. I have a sleeve tutorial already on my channel, so you check it out later. So what I'm going to do is to measure this area right here. I'm going to mark the same here at the wrist line right here to create the puffiness at the wrist angle of my sleeves. So here I'm just going to measure it out and show you what I mean. So this is exactly what I mean. If you want a fuller look for your sleeves, go ahead and add more inches to this wrist part of your sleeves. But me, I'm okay with this. Next, we're going to be cutting out our pants with the Palazzo pants block. We did a tutorial on earlier before, and I'm just going to add 1 inch seam allowance at this area and a 1/2 inch at this area, and then I'm going to indicate my dart lines as well. So after the front block is cut, I'm going to be cutting out the back, and I'm just going to do the same, add 1 inch to the sides and 1/2 inch to this area. And just because I'm going to be having a zipper at the back, I'm adding extra inches here to create space for my zipper, and I'm going to cut this out like so. So you're just going to go ahead, indicate your darts as well. So now we're going over to the sewing, and we're just going to sew the front interface first. After stitching this area, you're going to notch this area to release tension. Then you're going to flip it in and then sew it in. And when you're done doing that, you should have something like this, okay? And afterwards, you're just going to use a serging machine to knitting this area up. So when you're done doing this, you sew on your darts as well. Then after sewing your dart, you're going to use this notch you mark at the midpoint to match in your pattern pieces like this. And then I'm just going to sew the sides and the under part of it to hold these areas down like so. After stitching these areas, the next thing I'm going to do is to sew on the waistband for the front piece. Now for the back piece, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch right here, and I'm going to cut this out to release tension that may occur when I'm going to sew my zipper. So I'm just going to do that and sew on my darts. As you can see, I've done that already, and I'm just going to go ahead and sew on my waistband. After sewing the waistband, you're just going to put the right and front pieces together and stitch it by the side seams. And when you're done doing that, we're going to go over to our pants. Here, the first thing we are going to do is to sew on our darts for both the front and the back piece. After doing this, this is the front piece of my pant. I'm going to sew along the crotch line. And after doing that, I'm setting it aside. For the back piece, I'm going to sew the crotch line as well, leaving my zip allowance open. Then I'm going to join both front and back piece of my pants block, and I'm going to sew the inseams together. And then the next thing I'm going to do here, after sewing the inseam, is to sew the out seam together for the front and back. And when I turn it over, see what we have already here. Our palazzo pants is already there. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the upper part of my bodice and the palazzo pants together. So here, after joining it together, I'm just going to go ahead and fix my zipper. Now I'm done fixing in my zipper, as you can see. Now I'm going to go over to sewing the interface for the back piece. So here I'm just going to open this up like this. I'm going to place my interface like so, and I'm going to sew along from here, then sew down along this line. So when I'm done doing that, I should have something like this, and I've slashed off the excesses for the zipper right here. And I'm going to turn this inside out, and my interface for the back piece is ready. So when I'm done doing that, I'm going to sew on the shoulder together. I have a tutorial on how to knitting up the shoulder part of your bodice to have a neater finishing like this. I'll put the link on the description box below, so you check it out later. So after doing that, the next thing is to sew my sleeves, and for the sleeves, I'm just going to join it at the side seam. Then the next thing I'm going to do now is to create the casing for my elastic, and this casing size you're going to sew is highly dependent on the size of elastic you're using. So I'm just going to sew this, leaving a 1 inch space unsewn. Then I'm going to use this pin to pass my elastic all around the wristband of my sleeves like so. After doing that, I'm just going to join this together, and I'm going to stitch it out and close the hole, and my sleeve is ready. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join these sleeves to my jumpsuit. So next, I'm going to be sewing the waist belt, and this is highly optional. You can sew it onto the side seam, or you can sew it separately. So here I have 4 inches wide belt, and I'm just going to sew on the side seams. When I'm done doing that, I left about 2 inches space right here to turn this inside out. Then I'm going to use an invisible stitch to stitch this up, and when I'm done, this is it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching my tutorial. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel for more interesting tutorials. Bye.